He was born and raised in the city he loves, a city the world knows and loves for its romance, charm, and food, New Orleans, Louisiana. He learned early on, through work in his mama's kitchen and then marketing and selling the pies he made there, a respect for hard work, discipline, and the success that came from the fruits of his labors. He's been featured in the media, from ABC, CBS, and NBC, to national newspapers and publications, for his business savvy and personal drive. He's widely respected for his talents in the fields of human performance, intellectual capital development, and entrepreneurship, as he spreads the word through workshops, consulting, and motivational lecturing. He's Omar Aziz, and he's now poised to give you your piece of the American dream, your piece of the pie.
I would like to set the tone by telling you a little bit about my background, about my family's background, and really how I got to this point. How many of you in the audience are familiar with Omar the Pie Man? Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Omar the Pie Man had an opportunity to fulfill his dream. He started out back in the late 50s, early 40s as a merchant marine. And he traveled throughout the world on several occasions. He's been to Africa, Europe, China, Russia. And it was in Indonesia that my father contracted malaria. And they rushed him to the hospital after high fevers. And the doctors were saying, Omar bin Abdulaziz, Omar bin Abdulaziz, which translate, hold on, you're gonna live, you're gonna make it. And as he laid in that hospital bed, grasping for his life, he lived. And he decided after that experience not to go back to sea. My mother, who always baked pies and cakes around the house, decided to bake some pies and cakes. My father was, at this point, trying to figure out how he was going to support the family selling pies. And my mother made these pies. My dad actually put these pies in a box that he made, put the pies in the box, and walked across the bridge from our home in Gentilly into the St. Bernard housing development, selling the pies randomly on the streets. And for the life of me, as a youngster, I couldn't figure out how my dad supported the family selling pies out of a basket. And it wasn't until age 16, my mother asked me to bake some cakes for a jazz fest. And I said, bake cakes, get real, Mom, I don't have time to do that. Baking is for girls. And I really thought baking was for girls. And, you know, I couldn't see myself at that point selling pies or getting involved in making cakes. And then my dad said, well, we'll give you $1 for each cake you make. So I began to think about it. And I thought real long and heavy. And then I decided, I'll give it a shot. I ended up making 3,000 of these little banana nut breads. And the most gratifying thing was to take flour, sugar, eggs, bananas, and raw materials, and to produce a finished product, and to see that product packaged, and then that product goes out to market at the Jazz Fest. People bite into it and say, this is good, wonderful, give me another one. I sold 3,000 banana nut breads that weekend. So I earned $3,000 from one weekend. So needless to say, as a 16-year-old, I was highly motivated. At that point, I think I began to look at that little family business differently and got deeply involved in the process. One thing I gained from working in the family business was a sense of dreaming. Dreaming became a very critical factor in my development in the earlier stages, because once I made that 3,000, I began to think to myself, 52 weeks in a year times 3,000 might not be for girls after all. And I became so involved in the pie business, it became my life, my dream. And I began to think about the future. I began to think about what I wanted to do with my life. I graduated from high school and went on to the University of New Orleans. And it was at the University of New Orleans where the dreams really began to unfold. I was sitting in front of the business school one day, and the students were passing by. And I wanted to get involved in the college scene. I thought about pledging a fraternity. I thought about getting involved in the campus life. But I was real introverted. Believe it or believe it not, I couldn't imagine today being in front of you giving a lecture back then. But I was motivated to the point of learning more about business. And as I was sitting on that hill, my dreams began to just run wild. And then later I went to Bienville Hall, which is the dormitories. And the pizza man came in delivering pizzas. So I began to read about this guy who took pizza, Domino's Pizza, and built a tremendous pizza business. And I began to think, wow, if this guy can do it with a pizza, maybe I could do it with this pie. And then in college, I began to study other success stories. I began to read about a guy who took bread and meat and called it a hamburger and sold over 40 billion, the McDonald's chain. So my dreams were really becoming wild. And I began to think about how can we do that with this product? Knowing that we didn't have the resources, knowing that my family didn't come from a line of wealthy individuals, what resources we had was the commitment to building a dream. So at that point, I began to realize the importance of knowledge. Knowledge became a critical factor in the learning process and in the dreaming stage. So as I began to dream, big dreams, and there was no limitations to the dreams. But at some point, I recognized that that dream had to become reality. Now, what were the steps?
At a time when our world is asking more of our children, maybe we should give them more time to discover their own world. What choices do they make? Who do they pretend to be? To a child, playtime is a rehearsal for the real life they will one day inherit from us. How will they handle the challenges? What will they draw on for guidance? Imagination. It may be the most precious of natural resources. Encourage the development of curiosity. Nurture the inquisitive child. Love that part of your child that longs to daydream. Don't underestimate the power of play.
Now, what were the steps? The steps were to major in business, to learn everything that I possibly could about business. So I began to learn and study business with an insatiable appetite. And as I learned about business, I began to apply it. And it was in 1982, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I'm really inspired by this business and would like to take it further. And I told my dad, I have an interest in opening a store in the French Quarter. And my dad looked at me and he said, son, if you really want to expand the business, and he looked at his basket, he said, just get some more baskets. You don't need to spend all that money opening up a storefront. Just get some more baskets. And really, at that point, I didn't understand what he was talking about. But basically, he was saying, as you dream and as you begin to move to implement your dreams, you can't take that quantum leap. It's stages of development. So I didn't see that at the time. And I ended up opening that store in 1982. It was a small test market location. And in that store, we developed color schemes, we developed concepts, we developed systems that were transferable. The second year in operation, a gentleman walked in by the name of Barry Wood. Barry was a well-dressed Caucasian gentleman, about 45 years old. He came in, he was looking at the store, and I said to him, "Can I help you, sir?" And he said, "Yes, young man, I've been admiring your operation here, what you're doing in this location, and we may have some possibilities for you." He told me about a gentleman who had just purchased an old abandoned brewery that had been sitting in the heart of the French Quarter for many years, abandoned. It was an eyesore. This gentleman by the name of Darrell Berger decided to renovate this old brewery, which today is known as the Jackson Brewery. On the third floor of the Jackson Brewery, they had a food court. The food court was called the Jack's Fest. So I began to think about Jazz Fest, $3,000 in one weekend, Jack's Fest, ongoing, 52 weeks of the year. This might be the opportunity for us. So in 1984, we opened our first retail location in the Jackson Brewery, a dream come true. In 144 square feet, we turned over $160,000 worth of products in 144 square feet. I play basketball, and they teach us how to pivot. You know, in basketball, you pivot. In other words, you plant one foot and you can move around on that one foot. Well, the store was so small, you can work the whole store by pivoting. But in that space, we had the highest sales per square foot than anybody in the brewery. The dream is becoming alive. And then we began to get other invitations to open up in other retail developments. Because mind you, during the 80s, everybody was putting in food courts into their developments. So we had something hot, we had something innovative, and everybody wanted us to be a part of it. Canal Place came and offered us an opportunity to open our second store in Canal Place. And I said, wow, dream is really happening. It's happening. So we opened a second location in 1985 in Canal Place at the foot of Canal Street, where Saks Fifth Avenue is, Brooks Brothers, major anchor stores. And on the third floor, they had a food court. In that food court, we operated in a larger setting. And in that store, we had our traditional dessert pies, and we added some other items. That store led to the opening of a third location in Riverwalk. So between 1982, with the test market location, in 1986, we had 3 stores. Went from $12,000 a year in the test market location to doing well over $250,000 in 36 months. I was about this point 26 years old, being flown around the country to see other developments. I felt like my dream had really come through. I said, this is it. Feeling like I was on top of the world. I have arrived. My dream has become reality. But the story gets even greater. Because if you think that the dream process and the development process of realizing those dreams comes without a price, you're really mistaken. Success does not come without a price. That price for me was bankruptcy in 1988. Sitting on top of the world, feeling successful, have arrived, 3 stores, doing over $250,000 a year, flying around the country, felt successful, 30 employees. And then it felt like the rug was pulled out. Went through a bankruptcy in 1988, and on the front page of the paper, it was headlined. And for all of about 3 minutes, I felt a little devastated. But I began to read about the guy who founded Disney, went bankrupt. And I can give you many stories. Al Copeland, who took dead chicken fried in grease and built a $453 million chicken business, went bankrupt. And if you begin to look at success, there's always a price you pay. So I paid the price of a bankruptcy, but it was a learning experience at a very young age. And what my dad was telling me became the reality of building a business. You take it a step at a time. He was saying to me, son, don't go out and get all these stores. Just get a basket and get another basket. In other words, when you teach your children how to walk, they don't come out of the womb running. They stand, they wobble, they get their balance, they look around, and then they take that first initial step, and then you say, yes. You applaud them for that first step, but that's only the first step. And then they take that second step, and with each step, they're building confidence. They're learning the techniques. So they take that third step, and by this time, they're learning how to walk. So they begin to run. In life and building a business is no different. We all have a beginning point.
He was born and raised in the city he loves, a city the world knows and loves for its romance, charm, and food, New Orleans, Louisiana. He learned early on, through work in his mama's kitchen and then marketing and selling the pies he made there, a respect for hard work, discipline, and the success that came from the fruits of his labors. He's been featured in the media, from ABC, CBS, and NBC, to national newspapers and publications, for his business savvy and personal drive. He's widely respected for his talents in the fields of human performance, intellectual capital development, and entrepreneurship, as he spreads the word through workshops, consulting, and motivational lecturing. He's Omar Aziz, and he's now poised to give you your piece of the American dream, your piece of the pie.
Glucose plus oxygen equals carbon dioxide plus water.
Hey, Gio, what's up?
And energy. Superior vena cava, pulmonary artery, coronary artery.
I'd like to pass them back to you now.
Four cattle
Very
tissue
pleased
types
with
of
your work.
endoplasmic reticulum with ribosomes. 3 o'clock already. And without. Copy of the skeletal anatomy notes. 4 Chem cycles Wednesday. Velocity axis skeletal anatomy Thursday. The lobes of the cortex.
She's got the drive,
Cranial volume.
the energy,
Frontal, parietal,
the heart,
and occipital.
and the talent.
Cortical, motor output. Vena cava.
Pre-med.
Different.
But she wouldn't be here
Evolutionary development.
without your help. Please support the United Negro College Fund, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Syllabus 4 Chem 2.
When Charles Bennett graduated from high school, he dreamed of returning to his old neighborhood as a teacher. But without the money for college, only half his dream came true. He's back in the old neighborhood. Please support the United Negro College Fund, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
We all have a beginning point. We're born. Everybody in this audience had a birth, without question. Can you remember when you used to dream? You remember those long, boring summers as kids? We used to dream as children, but people tell us to grow up, to act your age for God's sake. We lose that ability to dream. But these sessions, this session in particular, is designed to bring the dreaming back into your life. Dream again. Dream as though time, money, help, and talent was no barrier to fulfilling your dreams. allow yourself to dream and to think big, to live life to its fullest extent, because there's an end. We're born, and as sure as you're born, there will come a point when we exit this life. So you want to maximize your life potential between birth and death. The way you maximize that, you allow yourself to dream and think big thoughts and dream big. Allow yourself to get into the wonders of dreaming. But there are other stages. And our mission in these next sessions, as we go through the Barnes & Noble series, is to help you to develop your dreams. But first, we want to get you to dream again, to really dream. Take off the baggage. Get rid of the fears, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of lack of love. Get rid of those fears and step into the dream state and allow yourself to dream. We want to welcome you back to the next sessions. Each session is a building process. It will fulfill another dream that I have. As I began to get involved in business, and business has been really good to me, being a part of Omar's Pies has really been a blessing in my life, tremendously. My father always taught me at an early age that if you want to get success out of life, you need to put yourself in position where you can help as many people as you possibly can to reach their dreams. So I began to think about, how can I do that? Well, one way to do that is to lecture. So I put myself in the lecture mode. I will be doing a series of lectures, not only here at Barnes & Noble, but throughout the country, lecturing on entrepreneurship, a subject that is dear to my heart. I graduated from the University of New Orleans in 1995. I'm presently doing my master's in urban studies with an emphasis in urban entrepreneurialism. Entrepreneurialism is so critical in this day and age as we move into a knowledge-based economy. There was a time when you could send your kids off to college, they graduate, they go interview for a job, they get the job, they stay there for 20, 25, 30 years, and they retire. Guess what? It's not happening anymore. Any of you in this audience still think there are job opportunities where you're going to work for 30, 40 years? Raise your hand. The reality of life is today that we will change jobs frequently. So entrepreneurship is imperative. And even if you're deciding not to go into business for yourselves, you need to think entrepreneurially so you can teach your young kids who are school age to think entrepreneurially. Helping them to dream and to maintain their dreams and teaching them how to walk their dreams through reality. If you look in this bookstore, there are hundreds of thousands of books. All those books started out as an idea, a dream, a thought. The chair you're sitting in started out as an idea, a thought. But those ideas and those thoughts were walked through the process and they became reality. So I want to challenge you to dream again, to bring dreaming back into your life. What we will be doing in this session is trying to engage you. We have a few little exercises. You can take them home with you and bring them back to the next session, or you can work them out today. But we want to start initiating the process. And I would like to say to you, you will become a part of a working process. Your feedback is very important to us because it will influence the finished product. These series will produce 3 products. A book entitled, guess the title. Anybody want to guess the title of the book? It's very logical. What is it? Entrepreneurial, okay. You had something? Anybody can guess the title. Omar's Dreams, that's a good title. Give me another title, potential title for this book. The Jazz Fest Pie, okay. Some other titles, potential titles. And if we decide to use your title, we'll pay you for it. We'll give you a little something for it. Come on, titles, let's dream. Getting your piece of the pie. Getting your piece of the pie. A recipe for success. So I will take the flour, the sugar, the frustrations, the anger, the fear, and put it all into a nice recipe so that you, each and every one of you, because you deserve it, you deserve what life has to offer in its fullest. We will offer you the recipe for success. And not only that, but by being a part of these lecture series, you become a part of that whole process. These lectures are free. So go out, tell your friends about them, tell your young kids about them, because those are the minds that we really want to impact. Because we need young people who understand this knowledge-based economy that we're in. Those who will make it in the future, in the 21st century, will have to understand that we're working in a knowledge-based economy. We're not in the industrial age anymore. We don't have smokestacks anymore. So it's important that we begin to teach our young people. So bring some young people back with you, and bring some older people back with you who have lost the magic of dreaming. I would like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to participate in the initial part of these series. But I welcome you back. And I would like to entertain any questions that you may have about Omar's, about this project, about what we're doing, about dreaming, about the process of taking an idea, a thought, and making it manifest and making it become reality. I want to thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to address you. And I'm learning too, so help me. I want to say at the end of this process, when I get to that point where you exit the world, I want to be able to say that I live my life to the fullest. I use myself and my being to the fullest extent. I want to be able to say that.
How to Get Your Piece of the Pie is a complete package with workbook and recordings designed to meet the needs of young people and working adults in an ever-changing urban economy. The student who understands how to start, own, and operate a business will have greater opportunities for success in business and on the job. How to Get Your Piece of the Pie provides small business training for aspiring entrepreneurs, small business owners, educators, and community leaders who are interested in building the entrepreneurial capacity of their communities.